Hey everyone, welcome back to CAF's Heroes of Sport. Every week we get to chat with some of our amazing challenge athletes. My name is Bob Babbitt, co-founder of the Challenge Athletes Foundation. And this week we get to chat with Mr. Marc Romero. Marc, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine out here. Evergreen, Colorado. It's snowing. We like that.
Well, so take me back a little bit. You were badly injured in a head-on motorcycle accident, 17 years old, just right months before graduation. You lose your right leg. Now, did you lose your right leg below the knee or above the knee?
It was above, quite above.
And
quite high up.
As a young guy, how hard was that to adapt to?
Well, everybody's got a unique story. I was 17 and hadn't discovered anything about sports, obviously, till probably about 5-6 years later. It took a while because I almost died and many surgeries and a lot of adjustment right as I was hitting college. So my college years wasn't when I got into sports yet. But right after college and in the workforce, I soon found skiing to be the one sport for me and for one-leggers, we'll call us.
And, so you graduated UConn. I'm sorry, you graduated UConn in accounting.
Yeah,
and it was
University of Connecticut.
Yeah, was water skiing your first sport?
Water skiing did start it all first. Water skiing started it off for sure. And I had that under my belt before I went snow skiing up in New Hampshire.
So Marc, when you got into downhill skiing, we're talking 1986, talk a little bit about the equipment you were using then to compare that to the equipment you use now.
Oh man, the equipment, the skis were long and straight and compared to now, much shorter and more carved. The outriggers, we were part of the leading edge, the one trackers and Menino and Emerson on making the outriggers a lot lighter and stronger and shorter in a racing position. And so we started leading that edge in the late 80s, going into the 90s, definitely late 80s. And by 1990, the World Disabled Ski Championships at Winter Park, that I call is the apex of the sport in skiing because it was such a great event there. And part of the reason were, the U.S. team had grown so much. It was part of the U.S. ski team. And there's been so much growth in the end of the 80s. Just as I was getting there and trying to make the team was exploding and the sport was exploding. Right up until 1990, I call it the zenith of the sport, Channel 4 on that First Interstate Bank, we were covered as a major event, which it was. And we had evolved to there. And unfortunately, we didn't keep evolving just because of the nature of the sport and that all the categories wanted to be involved, all the categories of disabled skiing, let's say. And things happen naturally the way they did. But, I like to talk about how they did happen and how they evolved to where we're at today.
So you end up
where I'm today with my media.
Right. And you end up moving to Winter Park. And like you said, that's when disabled skiing really took off. And when
late 80s, yep.
You were one of those guys who looked at these amazing athletes, people playing sled hockey and people skiing and going, they're not getting the exposure they need. And you wanted to tell the stories of those athletes through adaptive.
Well, I knew them all and I knew what they were all thinking. Yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah, you could relate, obviously. So when did you create Adaptive Sports Evolution? And basically you're a little bit of a one-man show trying to capture all these stories.
Well, it all started with the PBS documentary that turned out to be Heroes of the Slopes. It was going to be inside disabled skiing first, but I liked when somebody just came up with the name. I didn't come up with the Heroes of the Slopes name. Somebody else came up with Heroes of the Slopes. It was a compilation of just all the top adaptive skiers and technology guys in the sport. And that's where it all began with Heroes of the Slopes, PBS, 2007, we'll call it, is when it finally got released and made as a DVD.
There you go. I like it.
Sam Ferguson on the cover.
Very cool. And for yourself, what were some of your favorite stories that you enjoyed telling during this era?
They're all good. I enjoyed making them better through the years and making them into shorter MTVs, making them more compelling and told maybe musically as well,
Right.
because it really helps tell the story. And people can usually get people's stories in about 2 to 3 minutes without too much downtime, because that's what, we all have a 2 3 minute story.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, yeah. It used to be feature stories would be
Now we all have
5 to
2 hour
7.
stories.
Yeah, they used to be 5 to 7, and
Yeah.
then it became 2 to 3. And when you watch a news show now, they if they do sports at all, it's 2 minutes rather than 4 minutes. So
Yeah.
everything is more compressed.
Well, my original DVD had 14 stories, and I'd say they averaged 3 to 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes of the 14 stories. That was the 52-minute, 54-minute, 1 hour PBS program. And, I think it did great back then, but, it was the DVD world and only went so far.
So when
Let me know.
you're doing that, were you basically a one-man show, shooting it, scoring it, all of that? What were your responsibilities?
I had one tight cameraman editor who I got
Mhm.
tight with and who taught me a lot about the documentary making ski world, but it didn't do me any good. Well, it did me good for interviewing people, but it didn't do me good for taking into the digital age where you have to make stories in 3 to 5 minutes, not in 15 minutes or in 10 minutes
Right.
or in an hour.
Yeah, it's
And
a different world.
that's good, because even though you have new stuff and people could handle more of it, if they wanted to, or the right people, the bottom line is most people 3 to 5 minutes is good enough. And so that was my strategy and has always been. And it's even shorter now. And if you make a highlight reel for something, 3 minutes is a long time, and it only needs to be 1 minute. So
Yeah.
that's just the natural progression of the media making industry, whether it be adaptive sports or able-bodied sports.
Was there in
It's just
terms of
shorter time frame.
in terms of the sports you were covering, you've watched sports
Mhm.
come in that didn't even exist. Like a lot of sports have grown so much, sled hockey for one, and obviously
Yep.
all the different skiing. Was there one sport you looked at and said, this is going to catch on, this is going to be great?
It was sled hockey. You're correct. Around 2010, when we had those Paralympics in Vancouver, and I went to those, and I saw all the action, and I started meeting all the guys, and then I realized that Nico Landeros, and Tyler Karen from Colorado, who lost all their legs in that traffic, and everybody knew about, and then they were playing sled hockey on the U.S. team. So that's what just drew me to that sport. As a media, because I knew it hadn't developed yet to doing stories with athletes yet, but I
Right.
knew it was a huge story of it becoming a sport in and of itself. And the whole reason why Nico and Tyler were drawn to it and used all their skills in this whole new sport of sled hockey rather than just skiing, because skiing had always been the big dog in town, big place you want to go if you want to be a top, fast, adrenaline seeking amputee sports guy.
Exactly.
But guess what? With sled hockey, that's really the new amputee sport, if you ask me.
No
And
question about it. When they showed,
especially team sport, that's the amputee team sport.
well, yeah,
And you can really go far in it if you want to, and you like the sport of hockey, and you like using your body for
how
a great sport.
how have you changed as an athlete over the years? What are you doing now?
Not much. Haven't changed too much. Just love biking and skiing are my two top ones, just because of what they are and for how I love them. But following sled hockey and also wheelchair basketball has really picked up. And I went to the 2018 Worlds
Mhm.
in Germany and called that, and it was incredible. It was like all the U.S. guys had told me, "Oh, you got to go to Germany, you got to go to Europe, where they have a semi-pro league, basically."
They make
And
money. Yeah.
that's yeah. And, so I'd just been trying to cover it, with the top teams, Dallas and New York, and spread out all over the United States. Is totally different than in Europe, where they already in the competitions and the backing to fill 5,000 people in the stands, as well as broadcast it to the, and it's all the club-based systems, as you'll see on my trailer. If you go to my website, it's basically the club teams in Europe have really helped the sport of wheelchair basketball. Kind of like, a league, maybe an NHL or an NBA would help in the United States between all the different cities, because all the cities of the United States would love to have sled hockey or wheelchair basketball semi-pro leagues if they're at the level of the Paralympic athlete. If they were at that US Canada type of level, which they are. So that's what I'm most excited about these days is sled hockey, a natural evolution, let's say, in amputee sport because of being able to be seated and just use your upper body for everything.
Now, have you played? Have you gotten in and tried sled hockey?
No, I haven't, because, I'd be worthless out there. So, I like to report on just good sport and not make a mockery, but, those guys, that's why I've only followed the top end guys, because, there's a lot of skill and a lot of training and, motivation that goes into it at the sport at that level, which is, different than when you're just trying to do a sport for rehab at the beginning. But, guys who have been doing it 10 or 15 years, it's all about competition and being the best for your region, for your team,
yes.
And in this case, the sport of hockey, sled hockey, I know that we all behind having a little bit of sled hockey played.
If people want to check out your website and find out more about the features you're producing, where should they go?
Yeah. Para Sports Network is the web channel. Those 3 words, parasportsnetwork.com. And it's rocking, ready to go. Just check it out.
Love it.
looking for great sponsors and stuff all the time, and great stories, of course. So it'll hopefully, that's why I want to spread the word out, and I want to have even more different leaders in different amputee sports on there, because I call myself a Paralympic sports guy, but really I kind of probably represent amputees best, like any disability would tell you, and so that's the way I look at it.
You got the Paralympics coming up here very shortly. You're going to have a lot of great stories to tell.
Well, yeah, the U.S. team, they just announced them at a Nashville sled pred game, and those guys are going to have a great hands full with Canada once again, and with the other teams, because the world is catching up, just like the world kind of has caught up to us in wheelchair basketball. I'm going to say that it won't be too much longer till all those hockey-loving nations, especially, but even just Paralympic sport nations who have the desire and sponsors and athletes are going to be right there with the U.S., come Paralympic time. Maybe not this year. It'll still probably be U.S. and Canada in that gold medal game. But other than that, the world is catching up, and race for third is going to be pretty good in that sport as well.
It must make you feel good for the last Paralympics, when you had U.S. Canada really in prime time during the Paralympics.
Oh, that was great.
That was like the greatest thing ever for
I was there
parasport.
trying to develop my web channel and saw that comeback with 36 seconds left. They tied it and then won it in overtime. And me and the Pandemonium Bear went crazy.
Hey, Mark, congrats on everything you're doing. I love it. And the network at Parasports Network?
Yeah, Parasports Network.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We'll be checking it out and check out all your stories. Again, Marc Romero has been our guest. This is CAF's Heroes of Sport. Mark, thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks a lot. We'll
Bye.
see you guys.
Thank you.